For almost 50 years, the job of an NBA center was simple. Be tall, stay near the rim, protect the paint, and whatever you do, don't touch the three-point line. That definition doesn't survive in today's NBA. We now see Victor Wembanyama moving like a wing, Chet Holmgren spacing the floor, Nikola Jokic running entire offenses. At this point, calling all of them centers almost feels lazy. So instead of debating it, I decided to measure it. We rely heavily on the eye test, and it's emotional. It remembers the step back three. It forgets the 15 possessions spent boxing out, tagging rollers, and anchoring weak side defense. If we really want to understand how this position has evolved, we have to step past highlights and into the data. If we're going to measure this properly, we have to go deeper than points and rebounds. Box scores tell you what happened, they don't tell you how it happened. So I built what I call a player's DNA profile, 8 metrics that capture a center's physical tools and on-court tendencies. First, physical tools. Height alone doesn't control space. Wingspan does, standing reach does, vertical pop does. So instead of measuring how tall someone is, we measure how much space they can command. Next, offensive profile. Where does a player operate? At the rim, in the short mid-range, above the break. We track shot distribution across distances. That's where the split becomes clear between gravity creators and rim divers, between players who stretch the geometry and players who collapse it. Finally, total impact. A starter playing 38 minutes and a backup playing 18 exists in different worlds, so we normalize everything per 36 minutes, points, blocks, assists, creating a common scale. Now a role player and a star can be compared without minutes distorting the picture. Once we built these DNA profiles, we fed them into a k-means clustering algorithm. No labels, no assumptions, no opinions, just patterns. If you dumped 1,000 different Lego pieces on the floor and asked a computer to group them by shape and structure, without telling it what a Lego is, that's essentially what this model is doing. It doesn't know who's an all-star, it doesn't know contract size, it doesn't know hype, it only sees statistical shape. And it groups players based on the natural similarities in how they actually play. What came out wasn't random, it wasn't arbitrary. Clear clusters emerged, repeating identities, structural patterns that show up across teams and across systems. And when you step back, you realize something. The modern center isn't one position anymore, it's a spectrum. And once you see the structure behind it, you can't unsee it. Archetype number 1. The backup anchor is the quiet stabilizer of a rotation. He is not the headline, he is not the highlight. But when the starters sit, the defense does not collapse. In our model, this archetype is defined by one idea: functional reliability. He provides a defensive floor, a steady presence, a body at the rim. No flash, no chaos, just structure. He does the work no one posts about. Screens, box outs, vertical contests, the dirty work so the stars can shine. When we look at the data cluster, 3 traits stand out. First, restricted scoring. These players almost never average double-digit points per 36 minutes. They are not volume scorers, they are finishers at best. Second, defensive presence. A respectable block-to-foul ratio. They are deterrents, not gamblers. They protect the rim without constantly putting the team in the penalty. Third, low offensive complexity, minimal assists, minimal perimeter attempts, minimal shot creation, set the screen, roll hard, protect the paint, repeat. That's the job description. If you want to see the backup anchor in its modern form, look at Luke Kornet. He is the ultimate low usage, high impact specialist. While most modern bigs are trying to be unicorns, Kornet has embraced the anchor role using his height rather than wingspan to contest shots. He's the perfect example of how this archetype is surviving the extinction by becoming ultra efficient in the pick and roll while maintaining that traditional defensive floor. If you want a throwback example of the backup anchor, look no further than Greg Ostertag. He was the 7'2" human roadblock of the 90s Jazz. The data shows he was a mathematical anomaly. He provided elite stopper level rim protection while maintaining the ultra low offensive usage of a backup. He didn't need to score to be effective, he just needed to exist in the paint. He is the blueprint for the mammoth centers that the modern game has slowly evolved away from. If the backup anchor is a shield, the elite stopper is a fortress. This is not just defense, this is dominance. In our model, these players represent the highest defensive ceiling in the league. The anchor holds the line, the stopper dictates the game, they impose themselves physically, they change angles, they change decisions, they change outcomes. They are defined by one idea: aerial superiority, extreme length, explosive verticality, and the ability to protect the rim at its absolute highest point, not at the release, not at the shoulder, at the peak. On paper, the difference between backup and elite looks small. In reality, it's massive. It comes down to the vertical ceiling. First vertical reach, the average max vertical reach in this cluster, 145.2 inches. That's 5 inches higher than the backup anchor, 5 inches. In the NBA, that's the difference between a mildly contested layup and a highlight block, between 2 points and a fast break the other way. Second, the eraser effect. This group averages 2.32 blocks per 36 minutes. The backup group sits at 1.68. That gap changes games. These players don't just contest shots, they erase them. Third, wingspan outliers, an average wingspan differential of plus 6.1 inches, length that directly translates into production. In this cluster, the relationship between wingspan and blocks is stronger than anywhere else in the model. Their physical gifts are not cosmetic, they are functional. The modern gold standard, Rudy Gobert, a wingspan differential of plus 8 inches over 2.3 blocks per 36. Gobert doesn't just block shots, he forces entire teams to abandon the paint. That's defensive gravity, but to understand where this DNA comes from, we have to go back. Dikembe Mutombo, the ultimate throwback, a 7'6" wingspan, over 3.5 blocks per 36 minutes in his prime. He wasn't just protecting the rim, he was intercepting it. The original aerial interceptor. If we plug Prime Mutombo into this model today, he wouldn't just fall inside the cluster, he would sit at its center. The blueprint, the template, the mathematical definition of an elite stopper. The paint specialist is the bruiser. This is old school force. They do not stretch the floor, they bend it inward. They don't pull defenders away from the rim, they drag them toward it. In our model, this archetype is defined by one idea: concentrated interior gravity. They live in the restricted area, they operate in traffic, they generate efficiency where the court is most crowded. No floaters, no fadeaways, no logo threes, just pressure at the rim. What makes them who they are? The data makes this clear. First, the close range dominance. On average, 71% of their shots come within 5 feet. Think about that. Nearly 3 out of every 4 attempts at the rim, they have essentially deleted the mid-range, deleted the 3-point line. Their shot chart is a red circle in the paint. Second, glass dominance. Over 10 rebounds per 36 minutes. These are not casual boards. These are contested rebounds. Offensive tip-ins, second chances, extra possessions. They don't just score, they extend plays. Now here's the interesting part, the strength trade-off. Their average max vertical reach is slightly lower than the elite stoppers, about 142 inches. That tells us something important. Their game isn't built on jumping over people. It's built on moving them. They win position early. They seal hard. They carve out space. This is leverage basketball. This is strength basketball. The modern embodiment, Steven Adams. Over 80% of his shots at the rim. That's not versatility. That's commitment. Adams doesn't need a jumper to create gravity. He creates it with screens, with contact, with offensive rebounds that feel like body blows. And for the throwback, Marcin Gortat, the Polish hammer, a master of the pick and roll finish. Over 60% of his attempts at the rim during his prime, reliable, physical, relentless. That same bruiser DNA. Before 5-out spacing, before stretch fives, before everyone needed a 3-point shot. The paint specialist doesn't chase trends, he punishes space. And in a league obsessed with shooting, sometimes that kind of interior force still matters. The vertical spacer. In our model, this archetype is the tactical bridge between the perimeter and the rim. They don't demand post touches like a paint specialist. They don't stretch the floor like a unicorn. They don't slow the game down to operate from the elbow. Their value comes from movement and timing. They are the primary partners of elite guards, living off lobs, putbacks, hard dives to the basket after a screen. They don't hold the ball, they accelerate the offense. So what makes them different? The data reveals a very specific signature. First, efficient rim proximity. Between 60 and 80% of their shots come within 5 feet. That's not random, that's identity. They don't stop the ball, they finish the action, low usage, high efficiency. They are the final step in a chain reaction that begins on the perimeter. Next, the dive DNA. These players sprint out of screens, they force the weak side defender into a decision, help on the ball handler, or give up the lob. That split second is where they live. They don't isolate, they don't create off the dribble, they weaponize vertical pressure. Then comes the athletic sweet spot. A max vertical reach around 140 to 142 inches. Not always the tallest, not always the flashiest, but elite at converting momentum into lift. This is functional explosiveness, not for highlight blocks, for alley-oops. And finally, functional scoring, around 10 to 15 points per 36 minutes. High field goal percentage, high percentage attempts. They don't chase volume, they chase efficiency. The offense creates the window, they finish it. So who represents this archetype? Modern example, Ivica Zubac. Zubac is the controlled version of the screen and roller. He wins with positioning, with strength, with timing. He sets firm screens, he dives directly to space, he finishes through contact. He doesn't overwhelm defenders with pure lift, he overwhelms them with consistency. He is structural gravity. For the throwback, think DeAndre Jordan. Jordan was the explosive version, pure vertical force. With Chris Paul, he didn't just finish plays, he bent the defense before the pass was even thrown. Sprint, detach, elevate. Defenders had to tag him early, and that early tag opened the floor. He was gravitational gravity. So what separates them from other archetypes? A unicorn stretches the defense sideways, a playmaking big controls the tempo, a paint specialist demands touches. The screen and roller does none of that. They don't create the advantage, they become the advantage once it starts. They are system multipliers. And in a league built around dynamic guards, sometimes the most important big is the one who knows exactly when to dive. The face-up unicorn. In the modern NBA, this might be the most misunderstood role on the court. The myth says a unicorn can do everything. Shoot like a guard, protect the rim like a giant, pass like a floor general, but our data tells a different story. The true DNA of a unicorn is not about being a jack of all trades. It's about one thing: horizontal gravity. They are not built to dominate the paint. They are built to pull it apart. Their primary value: forcing opposing centers to defend 30 feet away from the basket. That's the glitch, the key characteristics. This cluster flips traditional big man logic upside down. First, the perimeter pivot. On average, over 30% of their shots come from 3. In our data set, they are the only archetype that takes more than a third of their attempts from deep. That's not occasional shooting, that's identity. Second, scoring volume. Around 15 points per 36 minutes. They outscore backup anchors, they outscore most screen and rollers. But they do it differently. Spacing first, scoring second. Now here's the defensive paradox. Despite the hype, most unicorns sacrifice rim protection. Their average blocks per 36, under 1, the lowest among defensively capable big archetypes. They are not erasers, they are spacers, and that trade-off is intentional. Modern examples: Sandro Mamukelashvili, a textbook unicorn profile. Over 30% of his shots from 3, more than 3 assists per 36. He's not just a corner shooter, he's a perimeter hub, stretching the floor, moving the ball, shifting the geometry of the defense. Derek Queen, the high IQ evolution. His three-point volume is still developing, but his assist numbers tell the story. Over 5 assists per 36 in our model. That's not a traditional big, that's a face-up facilitator operating from the high post, making reads, bending the defense without needing to bully the block. The throwbacks, the architects, Brooke Lopez, Splash Mountain, one of the greatest case studies in archetype evolution. Early career, paint specialist, today firmly in the unicorn cluster, over 50% of his shots from 3 in recent seasons. And here's the rare twist. He kept elite rim protection over 2 blocks per 36. That's the exception. That's the glitch inside the glitch. And before Lopez, Channing Frye. If Lopez perfected it, Frye proved it. Nearly half of his attempts from 3, almost no interior scoring. He was the mathematical proof that a 7-footer could win at the highest level without living in the paint. He didn't collapse defenses inward, he stretched them outward. The face-up unicorn isn't about doing everything, it's about changing geometry. They don't dominate space vertically, they distort it horizontally. And in today's NBA, that distortion might be the most powerful force on the floor. The playmaking big, the offensive hub. If the unicorn is about spacing, the playmaking big is about gravity, not horizontal gravity, not vertical gravity, total gravity. In our model, these players are system glitches. They don't participate in the offense, they are the offense. The entire scheme bends around them. They represent the purest form of positionless basketball, a 7-footer with the vision, timing, and passing touch of an elite point guard. The common misconception? They're just good passers. The data says something bigger. They are gravity wells. First, the distribution hub, an average of over 3 assists per 36 minutes, with elite outliers pushing 5 or more. That's nearly triple the passing volume of a traditional center. But it's not just the number, it's the role. They initiate, they diagnose, they decide. Second, high octane pace. This cluster operates at the fastest average pace in the model, over 103 possessions per game. They aren't just passing in the half court, they are grabbing rebounds and launching breaks, reading the floor in transition, making full court decisions. They speed the game up mentally and physically. Now here's the real distinction, the playmaker versus the unicorn. A unicorn pulls defenders away from the rim. A playmaking big pulls defenders toward him. He scores, he threatens, he attracts. And when the defense collapses, the pass is already on its way. Their assists are not accidental, they are reactions to gravity. Modern examples, Nikola Jokic, the spiritual leader of this archetype. Jokic doesn't just pass, he manipulates with eye contact, with tempo, with hesitation. He turned the center position into a quarterback role. The offense doesn't orbit the point guard, it orbits him. Victor Wembanyama, the modern everything big, over 27 points per 36, over 4 assists per 36, placed firmly in this cluster by the numbers. But here's the twist, he combines playmaking big logic with elite stopper physical tools. That blend is unprecedented. We've never seen this ceiling before. Alperen Şengün, the pure hub archetype, footwork, high post reads, patient manipulation of space. He doesn't overwhelm you with speed, he overwhelms you with options. The throwbacks, the original anchors of offensive gravity. Shaquille O'Neal, often remembered as a bruiser, but his true playmaking tool, fear, double teams, triple teams. The defense collapsed automatically, and he learned to pass out of it. He proved you don't need guard skills to generate passing impact, you just need overwhelming gravity. David Robinson, the Admiral, one of the first high-speed bigs, elite mobility, high IQ reads, capable of leading the break, finding shooters, acting as an offensive engine before the term positionless even existed. He was the prototype. The playmaking big is not about numbers, it's about control. They don't stretch the floor, they don't just protect it, they command it. And when a 7-footer becomes the son of the offense, the entire geometry of basketball changes. And there you have it, the complete evolution of the NBA center from 2000 to 2026, mapped through machine learning, clustered by data, decoded through patterns. What was once a monolith, a position defined purely by size and strength, has fractured into 6 distinct statistical species. The center is no longer one thing. It is a spectrum, from brute force to floor spacing, from paint dominance to positionless orchestration. The big man isn't dead. It evolved. And the data proves it. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the DNA of the NBA, hit that like button, subscribe for more data-driven breakdowns, and let me know in the comments which archetype does your favorite center fall into, or is there someone who completely breaks the model? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next analysis.